Here's a very simple but very useful drill for you if you're just starting to practice shadow boxing. Because this is what happens most of the time when people start to do shadow boxing. They throw some punches, then they turn, they throw some punches here, then they turn, they throw some punches here. And if you're Chuck Norris and you're fighting 10 different opponents at the same time, that's fine. Yeah, that's your thing. But in boxing, you usually have one opponent. So we want to use a cone, or really any kind of marker that's small enough, it's not going to be in your way. So don't stress if you don't have a cone, you don't have to go and buy a cone. The point here is I want to face my opponent all the time. And yes, in a real situation, my opponent is going to be moving around. He's not going to be standing in one place. But the point of this drill is to learn how to pivot, how to move around someone or something, even if you're on the back, and not just revolve around myself and turn my back on my opponent. So this is the cone, and this is where I face all the time. And there are two things I want to practice. The first one is a pivot. A pivot is a quick, sharp turn. We've been through those in the footwork drills, so let's recap. So first I step, for example, with my left foot. If I want to pivot to the right, I step with my left foot, and then I pivot, and I make sure I face the cone, so my hips are still facing the cone. I don't over pivot and turn my back. And I also make sure I take that step, because if I don't take the step, if I just pivot from here, I'm facing that way, my opponent is here, that's not right. If I want to pivot in the other direction, I take a step with my right foot, and then I pivot, and then again my hips are facing my opponent. So this is one thing I want to practice, how to pivot, how to make that sharp turn. So step and pivot, or step and pivot and face the cone. The other way to move around your opponent is a bit more subtle. It's literally you shuffle to one side or the other side. So I can shuffle to the right, still facing the cone. I can shuffle to the left, and I'm still facing the cone. So this is a bit more subtle, slowly changing the angle, while the pivot is a quick, sharp turn. So start here. If you're more comfortable, if you know how to do shadow boxing, then incorporate your punches. So throw your punches, then pivot. Yeah, throw your punches, move around. Punch, punch, move around, but make sure you're facing the cone. Get used to pivoting around something, not revolving in a circle and fighting 10 different opponents.